So I'm just going to run through the industry ecosystem and the business support ecosystem. So whistle stop tour, conscious that this is a massive topic and people might think that I've missed certain organizations, certain departments, etc. But it's literally a PhD subject, as I can testify, as I was interviewed by a student last week doing a PhD in the ecosystem. So this is a schematic of the main stakeholders and partners, so including departments, so obviously DHSC, DSIT, the Office for Life Sciences. So I'm not going to read them all out because obviously you can read them and the slides will be shared afterwards, but it's just to illustrate the complexity of the ecosystem and how many people are involved in it. In a previous life, I was head of sectors and I had to cover 25 sectors. And I would say that the health, life sciences, social sector tops and trumps any other sector in terms of size and complexity. So just kind of a footnote to say that this is a massive ecosystem. So this was an attempt at a map. And then grew conscious that it was evolving, updating, changing, probably by the week. So it's still a live document, but it needs updating before it's shared. And there's a number of partners and stakeholders that need to be added. There's obviously been changes across some organisations, etc. So just kind of to illustrate the point that it's a moving beast. And one of my tips from the previous session, as one of the panelists, would have been to map your own ecosystem. So make sure for your region, for your topic area, your specialism, that you do your own ecosystem map and you engage. So obviously social media. So one of the speakers this morning was talking about the power of social media and using it as an engagement tool. So making sure not just you know your ecosystem, but you're actually engaged and working with them. That might be through following them on LinkedIn to see what they're promoting, areas of interest, new policy changes, new strategy changes, and also events. So attending events is one of the best ways of networking and getting up-to-date current information, advice and guidance. So the map was covering the accelerators, catapults. So I actually emailed a link to Brian from when I was on the panel. So there's a medicines discovery catapult. So the catapults, if there's a relevant catapult, it's obviously really worth connecting with, attending their events, which might be online or in person, but just keeping an eye on them. And again, the way I do it's through LinkedIn, so following pages, following companies. Thank you, the links there. Following companies, following influencers. So is there someone within the organization that's an influencer? And kind of Kardashian level, but for the sector or for this specialism. So mapping out your influencers and following them for up-to-date information. So noted science parks. So are you near a science park? Again, most of the science parks run regular events and there are key personnel there that will be classed as influencers. So check out your science parks to see whether they're regional or speciality. And then I made a note about the spin out collaboratives. So in the northeast, the north, we have Northern Accelerator, which is a collaboration of 5 of the universities and their technology transfer officers. So a collaboration of the spin-out officers across the 5 universities. In the southwest, going into the southeast, you've got Set Squared. Um, so following both of those organisations, regardless of where you are, just in terms of events, um, workshops that they run, etc., that's invaluable as well. So checking out the Spin Out Collaborative. On that note, if you are a spin out, making sure that you're working with the university's business development, enterprise, research, innovation team, whatever it's called in your relevant university. The other one that I mapped out was business bank incubators. So a number of the business banks have incubators, and they also run events for the health and life sciences sector. So, for example, Barclays Eagle Labs is running a Women in Innovation networking and knowledge sharing event to mark International Women's Day. So, looking at all of the business bank incubators and seeing what their health and life science sector events and network looks like and looping into that. Membership organisations and sector bodies are looped together. So making sure that you're aware of the membership bodies that cover your sector. So BioNow, BIA, ABHI. So making sure that you're linked into the relevant ones. BIPC centres, so the business IP C stands for centres. So basically, there's a number of BIPC centres, the largest one being in Newcastle. Being in London in the British Library. The second largest is in Newcastle, but there's a number across the region as well. And they can support with your IP. They also run a number of events online, in person, around startup support, business advice, commercialization, growth. So definitely link in with those. And we've heard quite a lot of references to the Health Innovation Network. So a number of people have mentioned Wessex Health Innovation Network, or they might have mentioned AHSNs, which was the precursor to the Health Innovation Networks. So Wessex and North Cumbria run the Health Innovation Services. So there's 2 services nationally, one in North Cumbria and one run out of Wessex. And then there's obviously Health Innovation Networks up and down the country. So working out which is your local one. But then also keeping an eye on the 2 health innovation services, because they run a multitude of events, workshops, webinars, and the Health Innovation Network. So the network that covers the networks. They also run webinars for the whole of the network. So keeping abreast of that as well. So this is to illustrate the NIHR infrastructure. So today is run by the RSS, so in the top right, so the Research Support Service, and in collaboration with the HRC, so the HealthTech Research Centre. But there are a number of other, that's quite hard to say, NIHR infrastructure programs that are definitely worth looping into. So the BRC, if you're biomedical, I won't go through all of them, but just to note, there are a number of other infrastructure that are worth engaging with, following, checking out their resources. So this morning, Mike Lewis mentioned the NIHR Innovation Observatory, which is horizon scanning. So some of the reports will be absolutely huge, and they might not cover a specific subsector, subtopic, but go onto their resources page and check out if there are any relevant reports in terms of horizon scanning, because that's really useful in terms of your market assessment, competitor analysis, and your commercialization unique selling points. Innovation districts. So search your innovation districts. Are there any relevant, any that are useful? So, for example, I'm based at Newcastle. So, Newcastle Helix is an innovation district. So, within the Helix, we've got the National Innovation Centre for Ageing, the National Innovation Centre for Data, the Biosphere, which houses a number of startup spinouts. So each innovation district has knowledge transfer and specific networks that are worth checking to see whether any are useful and worth linking into. So this is just a note. It was kind of a note to self when I was looking at the innovation ecosystem. So it is recognised that there are faults across the ecosystem because it's so huge, unwieldy, and difficult to navigate. Hence my attempts at maps and infographics. But just to say that organisations are aware that it is complicated, and there is work underfoot to try and demystify them, make them clearer, and a lot of work around the whole no wrong door approach. So, for example, if you came into the RSS and we couldn't help you, then we would signpost you to another organisation that could help. And having that knowledge of the ecosystem and a signposting strategy definitely supports that ecosystem. So obviously there's a need to streamline it, innovation across the ecosystem, and it loops back to having a knowledge of the 10-year strategy, the implementation plan, and making sure that you're aware of policy and strategy, and you're looping that back into your applications. So just making sure that you understand why it's useful, beneficial to link into the ecosystem and optimize it and maximize it and work across it. Also a bit of ecosystem mapping across the regulatory pathway. So making sure that you've referenced MHRA, NICE, etc. So all organisations that we've talked about today, and it'll obviously differ in terms of your product and service to who you have got to engage with and who you are following. But that was just a schematic for the regulatory ecosystem.